everyone, my name is Molly and today we're going to be making the make your own scented candle kit. So we're going to follow on the steps together one by one and let's get into it. So when we first open up the kit we get the step-by-step guide which we're going to follow along through until we get to our end product. Once we've had a look at the step-by-step guide, we're now going to have a look at what comes in the kit. So we get 2 candle containers with lids, safety stickers, 360 grams of blended soy wax, 36 grams of fragrance, the wax sustainers and the glue tabs, wooden wick bars, coloured dye chips, dust covers, candle labels, and a pair of gloves, apron and an instruction sheet. So our step 1 is to melt in the wax. So we need to gently melt the wax in a double boiler. So we need to have a saucepan underneath and something on top which has the wax in, which we need to do slowly and not heat it too fast, otherwise we risk damaging the wax. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and once it's melted, leave it for a further 5 minutes and then remove off the heat, but never ever leave the wax unattended. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do that. So now that my wax is all melted, I'm going to go ahead and do step 3. I know I missed step 2 out, but it's because I'm not going to add the colouring. I'm going to choose to keep my wax melt the same colour rather than dyeing it, but that is optional. Just add a little bit at a time until you've got your desired colour. So I'm going to go ahead and do step 3, which is to add the scent to the candle wax. But you're going to work quite quickly as you don't want the wax to cool down too much. So I'm going to slowly stir it in, and I'm only going to put a little bit in, about 10% of the bottle it says. And again, if you want a stronger smell you can add more, but I'm only going to put a little bit in. There we go. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do is add the sticky tabs to the bottom of the wick sustainers. So I'm going to grab, just going to mix that for a second, and then I'm just going to leave that to one side for a minute. So I'm now going to grab my tins and I'm going to make sure that the wicks are pressed firmly down. So you've got your wicks here, this is step 4, and just peel them off, making sure the sticky tabs come off with the bottom of the metal bit rather than staying on. So now that I've got that off, I'm just going to centre it, as you can see, and make sure this is all straight. Centre it in there as much as possible and literally just press it down and hold it, I'd say, for about 10 seconds. Just to ensure that it doesn't come off. And I'm going to do the same with the other one now. There we go, and make sure the wick is straight as possible. There we go. I'm just going to straighten this wick up. So now we're going to grab these and I'm just going to pop it through the hole there. So the wooden stick bar will just help, and then just kind of pull this up to make sure it's as centered and straight as possible. And likewise with the other. There we go. So now what we're going to do is to do step 5, which is make sure the containers are placed on an even surface and somewhere they can stay for 24 hours. This is to make sure that you don't get the waves in the wax. So once you've poured it, you literally can't move the containers. So I'm just going to leave my containers here, and this is a flat surface to make sure that they dry or set evenly even. So now what I'm going to do is to make sure to not overfill the containers, because obviously you don't want wax pouring everywhere. If you see air bubbles forming, then slow down with you pouring it. there's no rush to pour it. So I'm going to start with the back one. Nice and slowly. Try not to get it over that wooden stick as well. I'm just going to pour it up to that very faint first line. So there we go, that's one poured. So now I'm going to go ahead and pour the second one. I'm just going to move this before I pour it, just so I can pour it better. And there we go. So now that I've poured both of them, I'm just going to leave them. I'm now going to leave these for 24 hours to set. You cannot move them, otherwise you'll get the ripple, which we don't want. And then I'll come back to you in 24 hours. So now it is the next day and the candles are all set, as you can see. So what I'm now going to do is to put the safety labels on the bottom of the candle pots. I'm going to take these off. And these are the safety labels, just the smaller ones in the pack. I'm just going to flip this upside down. There we go, so that's one on. And there's the other. So now what I'm going to do is to trim the wick about 5mm. So I'm just going to kind of, rest your scissors on the tin and kind of put that in line, or maybe down a little bit more. There we go, so that's one wick trimmed. As you can see, it's, if you do like that with the tin, it's kind of in line with it. That way you kind of get the candles both as even as possible to each other. So there we go, they're both trimmed. So now that's all that's left to do is to put the dust covers over the candles. So I'm just going to pop out the middle bit with the excess wick. And likewise for the other. Then we just literally place these over. If your wick isn't quite centred, you might have to just push it into the direction you want it a little bit. There we go, so there's both our warning candles up, warning labels on. So now we're just going to pop the lids on. And the last sticker we have to put on is the sticker to say it's handmade soy candle, and the scent, which is black plum and rhubarb. So we want to get this as central as possible. And the other one. And there we go, there's both our candles. So now, obviously when you open up and light them, just take off the warning bit and they're ready to burn. Really hope you had fun making this craft, and hopefully see you in the future.